Video. Go PC! Go PC! Go PC! We could have done another letter!
Oh, well, I tell you what.
Oh, there's the hot seat then. So here to celebrate Science Week is tomorrow's World Gadget Man, Peter Snow.
Now, everyone's heard of a tea cosy, but how about a car cosy?
Oh, our home monster now explaining all about newfangled things. Here's Peter
You
Snow.
just made it in time! Peter Snow!
Round of applause.
Loads of questions for you, so we're going to go straight to the phones?
We'll go straight to the phones. Who's on line one?
Hello.
Hello, line one? Don't be shy. We'll try line two. Who's on line two?
Technology, eh?
Hello, it's Alexandra Aspinall from Exeter.
Hi, Alexandra. I'm pleased you're there. What's your question?
What was the funniest thing that happened to you during the election results?
Oh dear. I suppose the funniest thing that ever really happened was when we were doing an election results programme. It was a by-election result programme, and there was a huge swing against the Conservative government. This is about 3 years ago now, a place called Dudley. Huge swing against the Conservative government. So someone said to me, right, come on, forecast the way Parliament would look if this was reflected in every seat in the country. So I pressed my button. Great thing about these graphics on elections, you never quite know what's going to happen, because of course they're happening in real time. Pressed my button, and everything went blank. It packed up completely. And I asked what was wrong, and they said, do you know, so big was the swing against the Conservatives in that seat that there would be no Conservatives in Parliament, and our computer can't cope with that. So we had to sort it out for next time.
Dear, oh dear.
There you go, a bit of a trauma there.
Thanks,
very
Alex.
much for your call. Bye. OK, Alice, you've got a question.
Have you always been interested in science, or have you just picked this up?
I've always been fascinated by science. I didn't read science at school. I was history, classics, Latin and Greek and all that kind of stuff at school. But I've always been fascinated by science and technology and space and medicine. And so, having spent a whole 30 years doing news and current affairs and dealing with people and, yes, a bit of science as well, but mainly people and events and politics and so on, having the chance of moving into a field was always fascinated me, but about which I've known far too little, was an enormously exciting opportunity. As I was saying to Zoe earlier, the fun of science is it is about the future. It's about the hopes and ideas that people have of making our lives more comfortable in the future. And so getting into that field is a very exciting opportunity.
Thanks for your question.
Pass the phone.
Let's take another call. Let's hope line one's there now. Hello, line one?
Hello?
Oh, thank goodness. We thought we'd lost you earlier. Who's that?
It's Neris Evans.
Hi, Neris. What's your question?
Is your favourite part of the election doing the graphics?
Oh, yes, of course it is. That's what I do, essentially. I mean, there are two things that make an election exciting. One, first and foremost, obviously, is the people themselves who are winning and being defeated in these seats. That's very exciting. And you see them, you see the outside broadcast, you see them coming up, being interviewed, you see the tears and the smiles and so on. That is the story of the election, people winning and being defeated, and governments changing. But as important as that, I think, and I wouldn't I, is explaining what's happening in the election. How the map is changing colour, how it's going from blue to red, red to blue, how the gold for the Liberal Democrats is coming through for the first time in 30 years or whatever. And it's very, very exciting being able to show people in as lively and colourful way as possible the changing facts of the elections as well as the changing people.
Thanks for your call.
And doesn't he do it well? Quite frankly, he does it very well. Even someone like me can understand it. Thanks very much for your call there. Timothy, what's your question?
Tomorrow's World has always given us predictions for the future. Can you give us a prediction for 20 years' time?
Good question.
Goodness me. I think the trouble is predictions are difficult. I hope will happen for 20 years' time. I think I'm looking for two breakthroughs. I think that they're probably within reach. I think one of them is, I think DNA, discovering people's gene maps, gives medicine a very exciting and important opportunity for the future. It seems to me that it is just credible now that 20, 30 years from now, I'm too late for me, alas, but they'll be able to take a gene map of your genes and say, oh, no, you've got a problem. You've got a terrible susceptibility to headaches. We can stop you having any more headaches. We can give you just trigger up your gene a little bit, tickle it up a bit, and sort out you won't have any headaches in the future. That seems, and more seriously, cancer, heart disease, and so on. If they can find the key to that, very exciting. That's one thing. I think the other thing I would like to see is I want a personal helicopter. I can't stand traffic, and I want to be able to go out my front door, get into a sort of bucket with my briefcase or whatever it is, my girlfriend or my Sun or whatever it is, and get into this bucket and simply say, I now want to go to Earl's Court to see the boat show. And it would take me up like that, across like that, and down like that. It'd be all terribly safe, efficient, and quiet, and not polluting.
But don't you know, will there be a few air traffic control when everybody starts getting up first? And
No.
like, oh, sorry.
Zoe,
Yes?
no, I do see, Zoe, I don't think air traffic, I mean, they have, there's now a thing called, I'm sure you all know, Global Positioning System, a GPS system, a satellite-driven position finding that's very, very accurate. The next generation of the Global Positioning System, I think, will find satellites able to be so accurate and give information so precise that people, you know, when we walk down Oxford Street, you don't bump into people. In an extraordinary way, you have the intuition to know that if you go left slightly, they'll probably move right. I think GPS, I think direction finding and air traffic control one day will be as efficient as that. And that you'll ever have thousands of people flying around the sky, all avoiding each other because of this incredibly sophisticated air traffic control.
Excellent.
But didn't you once have a car that could drive?
Yeah, you were talking about it earlier on.
Yeah.
Right.
We actually got a shot. Begin with the car you were talking about earlier on that
That's
drives itself home after you
There we
got
go, there it is.
Here it is. Look
at that.
On tomorrow as well.
So explain to us what's happening here then. Is this a...
I'll tell you exactly what's happening. This was, I think, me driving the car. I hear the people looking at the car driving itself. But the point about this is that I think there could be a world 20 or 30 years away, and this is very much the idea of the person who designed this car, in which we pick up cars we want to travel in, because I think people will want to go on in their own private transport, but they can't go on driving their cars into big cities like London and Leeds and Bradford and Birmingham. They can't go on driving their cars and expect to park there and cause the traffic chaos they cause in Russia. I think there could be a time when you pick up a little private vehicle like a buggy, like a luggage trolley at the airport. You're walking along the street, you want to get from A to B, you don't get your own car, you find one of those buggies sitting there, you pick it up, and you drive it, probably you drive it yourself, to the place you want to go to, and then you leave it. It's probably electric, you plug it in non-polluting, because electric doesn't sense pollute, the power stations pollute, but not locally in the streets. It's much more pleasant to be in the streets. Now, I think that the fun of those little cars is when you finish with the electric buggy and you leave it in some rather awkward place in the evening, you're going off to see your girlfriend or something, you leave it outside the house, you go in there and you leave the car there. It then finds its own way back. All these little cars reshuffle themselves automatically like that. They find their own way back to some charging point around the town, so the pattern of cars, the pattern of luggage trolleys at the airport, if you like, is all ready for the next morning to deal with people coming and demanding them.
A fantastic idea.
Well, that's very
Let's put it on print
fine
and
idea.
copyright it quick.
Let's go back to the phones. Who's on line 3?
Hello, it's Rosie Woodbury from Manchester.
Hi, what's
Rosie.
your question, Rosie?
Have you ever broken any inventions on Tomorrow's World?
Oh dear, no, touch, where is it? Wood. I haven't yet. One terrible thing that did happen though was, well, not terrible, these things happen, it was fun of Tomorrow's World, is trying things out live. We had a wonderful guy who'd come in, he'd invented a pair of pruning shears for people who haven't got very strong arms, people who are disabled and who can't prune their plants in their house. And he'd got this wonderful pair of pruning shears, brought it in and said, look, it's wonderful, you try it out. And so I tried out this pair of pruning shears. I think I was being too tough with it. It didn't work. So we then tried it again, and it did work. That's the nearest I've come to making a terrible mess of something on Tomorrow's World, I think. I don't think we've had any other disasters. Yes, there was one wonderful man called Trevor Bayliss, an inventor, who's invented a clockwork radio. And I think I nearly turned his clockwork radio a little bit too far and broke a spring, but it's very well built, and so it didn't break, so it was all right. But I haven't actually broken anything, no. I haven't actually broken anything.
Top question, though.
We've run out of time. Thanks very much for all your calls. Thanks very much to Peter.
Good luck with the budget on Tuesday, of course.
Good luck with the budget. Round of applause.
Okay, next. Who's going to be in the hot seat next week?
Let's have a look next week on the Hot Seat. Thanks, Peter, by the way. If you fancy a natter...